Noer navio, Brig. Redford Caylin stared at their captive for several seconds in silence as the Commodore stared back at him, trying his best to hold on to whatever scraps of dignity and pride he had left. His cell was small, offering no privacy like all the rest, and was confined behind a kinetic barrier alongside the sturdy bars that could withstand hits from plasma weaponry. Regardless, Iggor Cayston wasn't in chains, which was a courtesy Felicity Centaur never earned. Their staring contest lasted for what felt like a short eternity that, ultimately, the gray-haired man won. Iggor Cayston closed his eyes. A hand reached for his front pocket, removed his handkerchief, only to then let it fall to the ground between them. Tracing his index and middle fingers across his insignia and the heraldic shield of his house proudly present on his chest, the Commodore opened his eyes. "Congratulations are in order, Commander Redford Caylin. It would seem I never stood a chance against the genius of the Vorpal strike. Regardless, it pains me to admit that my life is in the hands of that creature," Iggor said, unshaken. "You're braver than most," Redford replied, his expression stoic and firm, unmoving, unreadable. "Few are those who would dare insult the second princess so brazenly. Fewer still as her prisoner." Iggor let out a short, deep, unamused hum. "Do forgive my forwardness, Vorpal strike, but playing coy does not suit you. We both know I'm already dead and that your beloved princess is but a monster in disguise. A bloodthirsty apparition that would claim the lives of so many on a whim without further consideration. What does it matter if my tongue lashes out in anger? If I can inflict any measure of damage onto her, then I'll do so with however little time I'm permitted to draw breath." Redford raised an eyebrow in amusement. "Your track record was less than stellar. Truly, I expected a coward. An incompetent cur and a socialite first and foremost. Yet a competent officer stands before me. I expect little from House Cayston, but you are worthy of a measure of respect even if you don't give it back." Iggor smiled. "Do you believe my house values me? That Tamarin, that wretched snake, sees any value in me? That I could ever compare to Lord Andrew? Please, Redford Caylin, I am of little value. I built my entire career to be nothing but irrelevant. Your victory is hollow." "That is where you are wrong, Commodore. You are but the first piece of the puzzle." Redford smiled, eyes narrowing. "Many more Caystons will join you soon. To borrow a commoner saying, it'll be a proper party, or perhaps an improper family reunion." The light, graying, brown-haired man's eyes widened for a moment, then he sneered viciously. "So that's what she wants? To gather as many of my house in one place and take our heads in one fell swoop? I always knew the Reaper was a vile woman, even as a teenager. But this is beyond despicable even for that harlot." "Your insults fall on deaf ears, Commodore. Try as you may, you won't lose your life so easily," Redford replied, not allowing the Cayston to see the ire his words had stirred in his heart. Choosing to change his approach, his voice softened slightly. "I must admit I was impressed by your quick response to my assault." He paused for long enough to let his words sink into Iggor's brain. His attention secured, he continued. "With enough time to prepare your defenses against the incursion, I would have met defeat. I would go as far as to say that with a single hour of preparation, you could have countered my forces more effectively. Victory, as you've admitted, Commodore, is mine to claim. But under normal circumstances, it would have been yours." Iggor Cayston's lips curled into an almost imperceptible smile as he straightened his posture and appeared to stand with twice as much dignity as mere moments prior. "High praise coming from the Vorpal strike. Empty in the end. Defeat has stung my heart with its poison, yet I cannot deny that your words hold merit. Undermanned as my command was, with proper time, I could have done more to make you regret your decision to attack my dockyard." Redford nodded once. "Yet that was not the case. The reality of the situation is that you're standing in your cell as an honored prisoner. Nothing more, Commodore. Although I approached with extreme caution, I expected the abolisher of indignity to have numerous proper warships at the ready, not a decent-sized yet underpowered collection of mere patrol-strength vessels at your disposal." Iggor scoffed. "You know as much as I do. I didn't give dispatch orders, nor was I privy to any battle plans. I simply followed the commands given to me. Nothing more. Interrogating me will yield you no different answers." Redford took a step forward, his cold stare inspecting the Commodore's face. He was nervous, that much was obvious, and tried to mask the fear crawling under his skin. Yet he didn't believe that the man was lying. The man wasn't an incompetent idiot, but he wasn't imaginative in the least. A protocol follower, a stickler to dogma with no room for deviation. He simply never saw the need to be more than what he was. Useful yet untrusted, Redford concluded in his mind. Yet he couldn't be entirely certain. He saw Iggor swallow slowly, as if a ball of lead was making its way down his throat instead of saliva. The trembling in his hand, the sweat in his brow, the fear in his eyes. If for no other reason, he would respect his conviction and his strength of character for not begging for mercy. "We shall see," he said, turning away from the cell as a distortion field dramatically faded away behind him, revealing a Royal Marine. "Leave his mind intact," he ordered. Milcades didn't reply. Nor Navio, Clara's quarters. Wyatt sank into his comfortable seat as he closed his eyes, enjoying the sweet taste of the Veshcom dancing across his taste buds. Before he could swallow half of it, he took another bite and a third before using a finger to push the remaining fragment into his hungry maw. He moaned with satisfaction as a smile spread on his face. Opening his eyes, he saw that Cynthia was engulfing 2 thick chocolate-filled pastries, while the blonde princess, in a display of pure greed, had claimed the remaining 6 Veshcoms, and her favorite chocolate tart filled with something called blueberries and applesauce. He knew every piece of the feast would be consumed. He no longer cared or worried about showing restraint in front of his 2 dear friends. They didn't, so why would he? After a few seconds of chewing, he swallowed enough to grab his cup of tea, drinking it all as the slightly bitter initial taste suddenly turned into an almost as sweet flavor that matched and complemented the Veshcom perfectly. He swallowed 2 more times quickly, cleaning his mouth and ready to finish the last piece on his plate. Reaching down, he grabbed the small tart and ate it, his eyes widening for a moment as the rich flavors assaulted him again. Licking his lips, stomach full and satisfied, he turned in time to see Clara using her left thumb to scoop some chocolate off his upper lip before licking it clean. Cynthia was no better as she, too, cleaned a smear of that brown, rich substance from her lips using her tongue. "You really like those Veshcoms, don't you?" Wyatt asked as Clara picked one of said baked goods, purposefully leaving them last for her enjoyment. "They've easily become one of my favorite treats. This I confess. Then again, how could they not? The texture is simultaneously soft, delicate, yet solid. It doesn't crumble when you touch it. The complexity of its flavors is truly to be commended. Harold somehow improved upon the recipe. It was good before. That man has transformed it into something I now cannot live without. Be it on the battlefield or whatever other career they set their minds to, a Winfield never disappoints," she giggled before biting into her treat. Then she continued talking. "I do so wonder if Julius Astor knew this and simply did everything in his power to ensure the Winfield lineage would remain close to him. Or if he had more personal, selfish motives." She ended with another giggle and a cheeky grin as she eyed her blue-haired bodyguard. Cynthia finished the last of her pastries before replying. Surely it was the latter. "You Astors can be so selfish. It must be an inherited trait that my unhinged princess embodies to its maximum expression. Don't you think so, Wyatt?" Wyatt snorted, crossing his arms and raising an eyebrow. "A royal blue blood being selfish? It couldn't be!" Clara blushed slightly. "Oh, shush you!" she exclaimed before continuing to eat her Veshcom. Cynthia and Wyatt shared a victorious glance before the red-armored woman turned to the heterochromatic-eyed man. "Tell us, Wyatt, how goes the progress with the simulations Maximilian bestowed upon you?" Wyatt mused for a moment, inhaling softly. "They've been hard on me and the rest of the composters. We've only managed to clear 3 of them. Leopold found out how to beat the first one with Gregor's help. Raquel figured out how to overcome the second one. And I managed to beat the third one," he confessed, ending with a deep, thoughtful hum. "Are they really that complicated?" Clara asked, her curiosity immediately piqued. "Yes," he replied without shame. "It's made even worse when some mission objectives are outright lying or counterintuitive. The first simulation simply stated win the engagement. We thought it meant winning through battle. That wasn't the case. Gregor proposed that to win, there had to be a hidden objective to destroy. Leopold found it first. Found the wing leader and killed him. The second was similar yet different. Raquel issued a challenge to the leader for a dogfight duel and won after killing the leader. "And the third?" Cynthia asked, intrigued, while the blonde woman continued to eat her Veshcom, enthralled by Wyatt's simple retelling. "It was strange. This time the objective was to clear out every enemy. Clear out, not destroy. I offered them to surrender, and the offer was accepted, ending the simulation. He paused for a moment. Maximilian's teachings, his memoirs, etiquette, and social training outside combat, the simulations, everything is geared with the intent of thinking for himself, by himself, for his sole benefit. Well, he is, or rather was, a lone wolf. They operate alone or in small teams of their choosing by sheer necessity, Clara began. Most of them are pampered aristocrats who achieved their position through careful design and backing. Few, like Maximilian, the Roaring Thunder, ever reach their position through ambition, polished skill, and factual training. Wyatt blinked, surprised. So not all lone wolves are that skilled? I never said that, the princess countered. Every lone wolf is skilled and deadly in more than one field. Being a fighter pilot is one such requirement due to the long tradition set by Luminor Tintar's legacy. Even the least competent fighter combat-orientated lone wolf is worthy of a modicum of respect, and not one to be trifled with. Some lone wolves are more skilled in ground-based missions, others in boarding actions, and a select few act more as investigators and intelligence operatives, she explained, before taking another of her favorite treats and taking a bite out of it. The vast majority, much like Maximilian, only truly care about their reputation, honor, standing, and image. In a sense, they act like celebrities or highly recognizable individuals. Being a lone wolf grants the freedom to be a free agent recognized by the Asturian Principality itself. They can go wherever they want through their own means, and nearly all doors are open to them as a result of their prowess and the weight the title carries by itself, Cynthia continued, her lips curling into a soft, playful smirk. Not just anyone can be a lone wolf, as their noble standing and the connections around such an individual matter greatly. Of course it does, Wyatt groaned, barely resisting the urge to pinch the bridge of his nose. Then does that mean that any lone wolf can sell themselves out to anyone willing to pay as if they were mercenaries? Clara giggled. Goodness, no. Though it may seem to be that way, lone wolves aren't mercenaries. They take pride in their services and skills and wouldn't do anything just for the sake of gaining credits. Maximilian himself had signed a long-term contract with House Centaur, a contract likely worth billions of credits. There are rules to follow, honor to consider, stipulations to obey, and 100 more details that both parties must agree upon before any signature, and more importantly, vows of fealty and personal honor are spoken. A common mercenary may end their contract at any time and only fight for the money. For a lone wolf, the prestige and furthering of their name is the true value they seek. Wyatt nodded in understanding. That would explain the section describing negotiation tactics and etiquette during parties and other social events, he said in a lower tone, as a shiver passed through his filled stomach. What more can you find in Maximilian's data? Asked Clara with obvious interest. Rules of combat, schematics, how to better counter enemy craft, setting ambushes, when to do it, when to be direct. I've read through everything 4 times already, and I still discover new things. However, I believe we are adapting to his lessons and the information he provided me with. He let out a chuckle as a small, warm smile appeared on his lips. We spend after-report sessions discussing and trying to approach every simulation through many eyes. Cynthia sighed as Clara's lips morphed into a smile, setting her sweet treat down. They are dependable, aren't they? What you've shared with them, Wyatt, is no small thing. Nultar and Gregor made sure I didn't forget, Wyatt replied, remembering his 2 squad mates almost threatening him to not share Maximilian's treasure trove so openly again in the future. He promised he'd be more careful, but nothing more than that. The results were promising, and he began to record his own observations, and those of his squad mates, on how to apply those lessons to larger formations. As great and outstanding as the Roaring Thunder's training and lessons were, that crucial flaw of being focused entirely on pursuing personal glory and advancement remained. Useless, so useless. All that addiction to honor and glory, and for what? To always be afraid of screwing up? To never know peace of mind? Worthless, Wyatt declared in his mind with pure disdain and disgust. He didn't know how it was possible, but the more he delved into the world and the rules nobles lived by, the more he hated it, and to some degree, pity made its way inside his heart. Jincho holds no such opinions, Clara joined in with a knowing smile. He's almost finished producing his 2nd prototype fighter. His companion Feshik has had a most difficult time forcing our feathered engineer to sleep and eat. A sad sigh escaped from her lips. It is a shame I won't be able to join you this time, Wyatt. Wyatt nodded. I wouldn't want to make Commander Redford angry again, then an idea crossed his mind. Every instinct in his body told him it was a terrible, suicidal, stupid idea that would likely end up giving him nothing but troubles in the end. But he couldn't help himself. Then again, he began, gaining the attention of his two friends. If you're willing to use your disguise again, then perhaps you could make use of the composter's personal training chambers. Clara's smile widened as her eyes nearly sparkled with joy. She turned to Cynthia, expecting a rebuke, but to her surprise, only a placid smile met her gaze. It won't be as easy as simply going there whenever you please. I'll need time to organize a schedule and the means to not make it obvious that my princess is degrading herself to such a degree, said the blue-haired woman before her best friend moved quickly to hug her tightly. She returned the embrace. But please, curtail your need for dramatics? I make no such promises, Clara replied, ending their embrace as Cynthia sighed, defeated, knowing that was the best she was going to get. Wyatt watched the exchange, feeling a warm, pleasing sensation spread across his body. He let it sway within him for a few moments as the princess returned to her seat. Then he asked, What's our next objective, Clara? Tegano Cayston, and after him Marina Cayston, Clara said, picking up a Veshcom. News about our assault has been spread by all those who saw and lived through it. No doubt that censorship has been attempted, but the traitors won't be able to dictate the narrative. House Cayston will know the Reaper is targeting them and is coming for them. Their traffic control outpost was destroyed, and the abolisher of indignity, whilst largely unscathed, suffered a surgical strike and was severely weakened. Resources, personnel, and most importantly, time will be spent in repairing the damage we've incurred and subduing the chaos left in our wake. She took a bite and chewed until she swallowed, marked by a satisfied exhale. Uncle Redford has ensured that their humiliation is great and noxious. The first of many to come. Andrew Cayston will come, and Tamarin Cayston won't sit idly either. She paused, her eyes focusing on something only she could see. For his sake, I sincerely hope that Iggor Cayston's mind is fragile and easy to break. We will know whatever information he knows. Then she returned to normal, taking another bite. Are you ready to carry out your duties further in the name of the prince, my knight banneret? She asked, in a semi-playful tone. Wyatt nodded once. Loyalty is its own reward, my princess. Cynthia smirked. Victory shall suffice? Wyatt turned to her, matching her smirk after a second of hesitation. As long as duty is the truest glory. A moment later, Clara let out a laugh, promptly joined by two others. Matcha, Prince's quarters. Tigans? The prince asked from his seat as it gently vibrated alongside his back. Small spheres moved slowly in a pattern that ensured every muscle on his back would be massaged and no stress would be left behind. His violet eyes were set on Juliana as she gave him the first report sent by her selected agent. His confusion was evident. Juliana nodded slowly. A group of 8 Tigans and a contingent of nearly 200 servants and security personnel. They arrived the day prior to my agents. And the governing house Arante failed to acknowledge their arrival? He asked, frowning slightly. I assure my prince that there is no collusion between the Tigans and the Arantes. House Arante is an ambitious house and is loyal to House Gimor. My agent detected no secretive dealings nor suspicious activities coming from either party. Likely the Arantes were simply not even aware of their arrival. Not through secrecy, but due to sheer negligence and complacency, Juliana explained, crossing her arms. My agent has yet to find more information. I'm as surprised as you are at the sudden turn of events. One name was confirmed, however. Joran Tigan, a relatively powerless member of one of House Tigan's branch houses. No military records to be found, and a true socialite through and through. Certainly not an ideal candidate to entrust anything more important than the organization of a banquet. The prince hummed, rubbing his chin. Could this be nothing more than a coincidence? A group of no-repute Tigans with overinflated egos seeking thrills on a mountain range? It is not uncommon for young nobles to travel to worlds outside their domains in search of new sights and new thrills. Boredom is one of the great instigators for action, he said, trying to find a simple, logical solution. That was my first conclusion, my prince. There is a small chance that their goal is nothing more than entertainment, the blue-haired woman said. The prince sighed. But that is unlikely to be the case, will it? A silent nod from the blue-armored woman tore a deep hum from within his chest. The security measures taken and their secretive moves have done nothing but draw attention to them? She shook her head. Idiots. But why Tygans? Hadrian Tygan is acting as my uncle's closest confidant. Hadrian isn't the kind of man to resort to such tactics, the prince pondered, trying and failing to piece together a coherent reasoning. Could this spark of motivation be set and driven by Deborah and Otto Cintor, my prince? An attempt to claim retribution from the grave stain upon their standing and reputation inflicted upon them by their daughter's idiotic defeat? Asked Juliana. Or it could be nothing more than a spark of spontaneous motivation from the lower rungs of their social ladder in an attempt to gain notoriety for themselves. The blond man shook his head. There are deeper tendrils in this. I wouldn't be surprised if Tamir and Cayston is somehow involved in this debacle. It is always a possibility, my prince. That old viper's fangs are nearly invisible and his poison is deadly, said the blue-eyed woman with contempt. The prince leaned back against his chair, letting the vibrations tear apart his new mounting stress. It seems I acted too late, or just in time, as my father would say, he said as his expression became somber but for a fraction of a second. Instruct your agent to continue his work, uncover whatever information he can, no matter how insignificant, and relay it without delay. Tell him, too, that he has my thanks and my permission to act if need be without reservation. Juliana bowed her head in deference. It shall be done as you command, my prince. The prince watched as Juliana left his room, leaving him only with his royal marines as they continued their silent, ever-watchful vigil. Solve one problem, 10 more appear, he thought, suddenly feeling tired. The only 2 good news he'd received were his sole consolation amidst a sea of endless talks, war councils, trade disputes, and quelling the never-ceasing arguments between nobles and their houses, and everything that entailed. Redford and his sister were victorious in their first assault and had suffered virtually no damage in return. The second, at least at first, was that while Wyatt's family had been located and found by other local nobles, hounded as expected by opportunistic scoundrels coming from all walks of life, they had not been harmed nor pressed by more powerful houses yet. In his mind, another piece was moved on the board. Volantis, Fire Outskirts, Staples household. Mr. Warlow! Wham exclaimed as he saw the figure of the old man making his way to his home. He ran just a little faster, catching up to the old man who in turn had stopped as he glanced back at the 15-year-old adolescent. Wham! I thought you were already home, said the old man as Wham joined his side. The walk resumed as the youngest of the Staple brothers worked to regain his breath. You're not out there wasting credits or your time on lying shits trying to sweeten you up like a slice of black bread before they eat you, right? You better not, or I'll break my cane on that empty head of yours, rascal. Wham let out a laugh. Who, me? Don't worry, Mr. Warlow. I actually went back to Wakato's place for this, he said, pulling out a small weathered red box from his pocket. It rattled with a metallic sound emanating from within. Dad's hex, wrenches, and spare nuts. You never know when you'll need them. His smile widened, and a small blush appeared on his cheeks. It was a good excuse to go see Wantabi up close. She's so pretty. Warlow let out a throaty chuckle, placing a hand on Wham's shoulder and patting it a couple of times. Take it from someone who knows, laddie. Don't let your other head do much of the thinking. Your brother's a blue blood now, and he holds you close to his heart. For him, you gotta be careful who you let in, you hear? Wham nodded a few times tiredly, having heard the same warning dozens of times already. I know, Mr. Warlow. But it gets hard, you know. All the girls at the line were looking at me like, you know, and Dad got that promotion he always wanted. His cheeks blushed again. And hey, maybe even some real pretty lady might take a liking to me. Bah, blue bloods, Warlow spat. You don't need one of them to be happy, laddie. Most of them are no-good liars and thieves who'll only use you up and toss you aside when they get bored. Seen too many friends and comrades fall for their lies and stringing. You're smarter than that, rascal. At least I hope you are smarter than a Clixall. Wham rolled his eyes. Come on, Mr. Warlow. Not all nobles are that bad. I mean, Wyatt is a noble now. If he can be that lucky, then there's hope for me yet. Warlow shook his head. There ain't hope for you, laddie. For several more minutes, their conversation morphed into casual events happening across fire and some other gossip and other day-to-day events, until they arrived at Wham's home. The house was modest but solid like those of their other neighbors. Warlow noticed a few tire marks on the ground, but not new ones. Alleviated by the slight reprieve, they arrived at the porch, and Wham produced a key, opening the door. Showing his manners, Wham helped him step inside the now familiar house first. Its warmth was a welcome contrast to the chilly, darkening weather outside. "Warlow, you made it just in time!" exclaimed Wirt Staples as he received the box Wham had gone to retrieve. "Thank you, Wham. I was certain I had it with me when we left. I guess I was too distracted. Now go wash your hands. Dinner is about to be served. Come, Warlow, come! We saved you a spot." Warlow smiled. "Give me a moment to put away my cane. I'll be right there." I know this place as much as I know my own house now," Wirt laughed, turning around to enter the dining room. From where he stood, he could hear Winona chatting with Whitmoos and Weskull about something. He couldn't make out what except their voices. Alone, his smile dropped and the grip on his cane tightened before he turned to his left, his eyes meeting the walls of the Staples home. But whilst he couldn't see past the wooden wall, he knew the forest line wasn't too far away, and from there the forest proper. Age-old instincts had kicked in a few days prior during that first visit to celebrate Wirt's promotion. The same sensation he felt for 3 consecutive days. The unmistakable sensation of being watched. "Warlow?" Winona called. "Don't hurry an old man up, woman," countered Warlow, setting his cane next to the door. "Everyone, don't forget we have 2 side stories for you this week, and every week for the next couple of months. The Barony of Screaming Forests, and What's the Job? They will be available at the same time slot as the Black Ship. Lots more Black Ship for you all to enjoy.